Hey guys, welcome to another 31 Horror Toys in 31 Days review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Spawn Mcfarlane Toys GateKeeper figure. Now this guy is creepy as heck, and I don't know anything about Spawn, so I'm not sure if this is a character that's actually in Spawn or if it's just some sort of expanded universe of Spawn or something. But I do like the figure, that's all I can say. So let's take a quick look here. He does have some ups and downs, but we'll take a look at that in a second. Let's pull him closer. We'll take a look at his accessories because he just has so many that there's no way you can't look at the accessories. Okay, to start out, he has this staff type thing here, which has like a bit of a fabric running up it, and then it's all sorts of spiky and filled with thorns, like that. There's nowhere to store this other than his hand that I can see. He does have storage for a lot of things though, so it's not exactly too bad that this thing can't find a place. Let's just set that down. It is sculpted and painted well, I can say that. It looks a bit like wood. It's not like amazingly painted, but you can get the gist. Why does my camera have so much trouble focusing? There we are. Yeah, it's got a little tiny wood grain sculpted into it. I like that. Okay, let's move on to his next accessory. I'm going to call it his big sword, his big backwards sword. I call it backwards because you see the way it looks, right? You'd figure it could be held like this, but the peg that's in it, that's supposed to go into his hand, as you can see there, because he has that hole, it would make it go in the opposite direction. So it's the big backwards sword. I don't know why. No, it just doesn't seem right. I prefer him holding it this way, but it just doesn't hold too well that way. So let's just jam this into his peg hole. There we are. Yep, so there's his other accessory. He doesn't hold his accessories too tightly like the staff. He can kind of hold it fairly well at the middle, but the sword here, unless you get it pegged in, he can't hold that. And I'm not sure how this one works. We'll take a look at that in a second. This one isn't sculpted or painted too well. It's, rather bland, and it's made out of a more pliable material, so of course it's warped. Because he is from 1997, so this was like, what? Oh my gosh, that's nearly 20 years ago. Okie doke. Let's see his next accessory. Oops, knocked over another one of his accessories. You don't need to see that ugly mug yet. Okay, so here's his second sword, which of course is again all bent up, and yeah, it does have sort of a peg going on there, but it looks like the sculpt just got messed up and it melded together or something. I'm not sure if that was something that's supposed to look like that or if that's just an absolute mess up. But the sculpt on the sword itself is not too bad. It does have little details here and there. Just looks a little chunky. I don't think it looks very sword-like. Looks more like some sort of tool. Okay, and this fits in his hand, let's see. Fairly well. It's because it's a little bit thicker than the other sword at the base, so he can kind of hold it, so that's not bad. Yeah, I can hold off the side there, and then he has this sheath on the back, which is really, it's just a little loop, and you can stick it in there however you want. You can stick it this way or this way. I think if I do it this way, it inhibits the movement a little bit less. Let's do that. Okay, next accessory, we're going to take a look at his freaking rocket arm here. Yes, he actually has a sort of spear gun arm, which I do like. This is a cool little thing, and it looks good just normally, and it's not too easy to fire off, so you can't just accidentally knock it and it'll go shooting across the room. See how powerful it is. I like that. Okay, you know what? We're going to have to do it. We're going to have to see if he can knock someone over with that. Okay, now we're going to have to test it. Let's see. Wow, that is powerful. Knocked him right over. Okay, so I do like the way that works. Let's see. You can see that the button's here, and then you just press it backwards, and then it fires. It's very powerful, so if you do hit it, it's probably going to end up under the chair across the room. But his entire arm here is just sculpted very well. I like all the little details. It looks like there's straps holding it together. Like it's so powerful it's been exploding itself. It's got little I'm not sure why there's tan in there. Maybe that's supposed to be like fabric, some sort of bandage under that. I don't know. Let me put that sword back. Yeah, I like that, and the spear is sculpted fairly well. It's a lot more rubbery so that it wouldn't kill a kid if you fired it in his face, which is always good, because if you're going to be selling monster freaks to a bunch of kids, you might as well, you know, make it safe. Okay, now let's take a look at his final accessory here, which is his hood, which I do not like this accessory. It just does not work. You set it on there, and then it's really just like gravity hold it onto there, because as soon as he gets turned upside down, it likes to fall off. As soon as you move it a little bit, it's just going to fall off. It's not pegged in or anything. I don't like it. But as for the overall look, it does make him look a little more mysterious, but at the same time, it just doesn't look right. I like his face sculpt much better, but for some reason they made his head sculpted downwards, so he's looking down. I'm not sure if I like that. That way you can't really see his face sculpt unless you've got him up high so that he's looking down. Yeah, and if you had articulation so he could hinge up and down, that would be perfect. But since it's permanently looking down, if you put him next to an actual figure that's about his height, he's just going to look like... Yeah, that doesn't look too bad though. He does fit in the 6-inch scale fairly well. I gotta point that out. Let me see. I need to grab a figure that's taller than him or just as tall. Yeah, see, it just looks weird. Like he's looking at the guy's neck while he's standing there. Maybe his boobs. He's looking at this big, hairy man's boobs for some reason. He is from hell, so you never know. Okay, so let's also point out that the place where I store this sword, I'm not sure if it's supposed to actually go there, but I just loop it onto this here. I figure that's good enough. As you can see, there's a little spike there. Okay, now let's take a look at the sculpt and paint of him overall. I like it. Look at this. He has stitches up on the front here with a long scar. He's got all sorts of black wash on him that looks good. He's got this green skin and then blood mixed in everywhere. His face is all wrinkled up and creepy. You can see some sort of like tendons and muscles in his face. So you can imagine like the skin is mostly gone. And he's got this eye patch that's made out of a big chunk of metal. He's got this nice shoulder armor here, which does inhibit the articulation, but it does look cool. I wish it was painted a little more silver and a little less gray though, but it does its purpose. And of course, a nice sculpted arm here. This one looks a little odd, I'm not sure. He's got long nails, and then all these spikes everywhere. He's got spikes all over this side, but this side doesn't have any spikes. Kind of odd. Maybe he's like bipolar or something. He can't make up his mind or something like that. Not sure. Then he does have a cape. The cape is cool and it's all shredded up looking. I like it. I like a lot about this apparently. That's just all I can say. It's cut there. I wish it looked a little bit more frayed maybe. But at the same time, if it was like that, it would just be falling apart at this point because it is getting pretty old. Then the leg has chainmail all over it on this side, and then this side just has some fabric, like pants. He has pants on it, and it's all folded like, all wrinkly. And he's got a sculpted pistol here, which I wish could come out, but alas, it's just part of the sculpt. But it does look good just sitting there, I suppose. And they got a lot of little tiny details on this guy. That's something you can always say about Mcfarlane. He does get the deets. He gets the deets. Okay, so let's take a look at his articulation now, since we've basically seen every little tiny whatsoever of him. I just got a message, so I'll check that in a minute. Okay, his head turns not much to this side, but he does turn all the way around to this side, but then you have to bring it back this way. And then on the other arm here, he can move full 360 and then bend at the elbow this much, and then backward that much. Then the other arm, it has different articulation. It gets stuck up at there, at the shoulder, and then can go back that much. And then instead of a bend at the elbow, he has a swivel. And then his wrist has articulation too. He can go full 360. His waist has some articulation there. He can kind of move his legs backwards and forwards at the hip a slight bit, but it's totally hindered by this solid piece that is his crotch plate or whatever. Yeah, but then the knees have articulation that can bend quite a bit. A fair amount, not quite 90 degrees, but not exactly nothing at all. Okay, so that is his articulation. There is no ankle articulation because back when this guy came out, that wasn't even a thing. But as for overall, I think he's a really good figure. Of course, he could have a lot more articulation, but we're considering the times, and that just wasn't a thing, and it is Mcfarlane's creation. So tell me what you think about this guy. I really like him. He's definitely going into my collection, and I just love that he can stand next to 6-inch figures. So cool. Okay, tell me what you guys think. I will see you guys in the next review. Peace. Make sure to stick around for some size comparison. The Gatekeeper stands at just about 6.5 inches tall. Here he is next to the NECA Ash figure. Here he is next to Deadpool. And here he is next to a horrified looking Dale.